Welcome to the life you crave. Simple and sustainable weight loss for women who have better things to do than diet. I'm your host, Leah Pinelli. I help ambitious, badass women stop overeating, overworking, and overgiving to lose weight from a place of love. I'll help you simplify weight loss, end your overwhelm, and create the life you crave. If you like what you hear, please like and subscribe to this podcast. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Life You Crave podcast. Today we are talking about how to lose weight when you really don't have time. I hear this a lot. People say this to me a lot. I don't have time to lose weight. And I get it. I get why they say that. I don't have time to lose weight either if it means measuring and counting and reading books and going to meetings and adding and subtracting and negotiating and not being able to grab takeout or eat in restaurants or exercising for an hour a day, commuting to and from a gym, and then having to make up for the chocolate chip cookie that I quote unquote cheated with. I really, at the age of 45, don't have time for that. I didn't have time for that at the age of 35. And in hindsight, I never really had time for that. We women have better things to do than count calories and carbs. We have better things to do. And we deserve to feel really good doing those better things. We deserve to feel confident and happy and sexy in our own skin. This is not a either or. This is an and. So on today's episode, I'm going to address the top 3 myths about weight loss being time consuming so that you can lose that unwanted weight and get on with creating the life you crave. Let's get started. Myth number 1. It takes too much time to food prep. And girl, I agree with you. The last thing, excuse me, the last thing I want to spend my weekend doing is shopping for groceries and then coming home and spending hours in the kitchen prepping my meals for the week. There are so many other things I would rather be doing with my time on a Sunday, like hiking, reading, sleeping, going to Pilates, hanging out with my family, going to the movies, going for a day trip, a weekend trip, you name it. I do not like to cook. And if you know me, you know that very well. I do not like to cook. And not even do I not like to cook, I don't like to spend time in the kitchen. Now, I know a lot of you out there do like to cook and you do like to spend time in the kitchen. And so more power to you, do it. But for those of us who really would rather, I would honestly rather be working. I love my work. I would rather be hanging with people that I love than spending time in the kitchen. So I promise you, food prep is not required for weight loss. I lost 30 pounds and I've never food prepped my way through it. I do, however, use a method that I teach that I affectionately call food assembly, which is something that I don't mind doing because it takes very little time. So I'm going to explain it to you here. And I do want to start, though, with a short caveat that I love to eat well. I am not somebody who is going to be satisfied with, going to a mediocre taqueria or McDonald's for lunch. No way. I like to eat, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a snob, but some people would probably refer to me as a food snob in that I really like high quality, good food. So food assembly is possible even for food snobs like me. What food assembly is it's essentially exactly what it sounds like. It's putting food that's already prepared, or at least requires very minimal preparation, putting those foods together to make a delicious meal. I'm going to give you an example of that from exactly what I've eaten today. Oh, and what I meant to say was, short caveat, I love to eat well. And I have to admit that my husband does do all of our dinners in our house. So he does all of the evening cooking. So I do plenty of food assembly because I prepare all of my other meals, and I do contribute to the evening meals. Like my husband doesn't really make salads, and I love making a good salad. So, because again, salad is food assembly, right? It's that idea that I am tossing a bunch of veggies, and I'm going to explain that in a minute, in a bowl, some really delicious, cheese and dressing and all the good stuff, and eating it. That's food assembly. My husband doesn't do that so much. So he cooks all of the things, fish and steak and all of those things. So food assembly is essentially when you are taking foods, like I said, that are already prepared or minimal, or just require some minimal preparation and putting them together. A great example of this is, I'm going to actually share with you the lunch that I had just now, right now, before recording this podcast. I had made yesterday a big, super nutrient dense salad. And here's what I put in it. I always have, pre-washed lettuce, salad fixins in my fridge. So whether that is shredded cabbage, which is always in my fridge because it's so versatile for food assembly, or whether it's, this time I actually had one of those big cartons from Whole Foods. That's the pre-washed salad mix that is the dark leafy greens. I try to make sure that I rotate those through on a very regular basis because we know that dark leafy greens are super nutrient dense and good for you. And I like to have them in a really yummy salad. So I took a couple handfuls of those dark leafy greens, and then I put my new favorite food obsession lately, which is I discovered with Thrive Market. And if you've never heard of Thrive Market, you can go to thrivemarket.com. And it's a online store where you can actually get some really good, high quality, nutrient dense foods for a little bit cheaper than you might be able to find them in the supermarket. I use Thrive Market because where I live, we actually don't have a Whole Foods. We don't have any really good grocery stores. And so I use Thrive Market for that reason, as I'm able to get some of those higher quality foods delivered to my house. Thrive Market had these quinoa bowls, and it's basically these little individual servings of quinoa with some kind of, each one had like a different sauce. There was like a basil pesto and an artichoke red bell roasted pepper one. And they're designed to be like food in a cup that you could just take and go with you and eat. But I am not a huge fan of quinoa on its own, but I love it mixed into a salad. So I purchased a couple of those to try them out. And so in my bowl, I dumped the quinoa. I dumped the sauce that came with it, which the sauces are really good. I highly recommend. I'm actually going to post this on my Instagram so you can see it. I added so there's the quinoa, there's the dark leafy greens. I always add a couple of green onions, or sometimes called scallions. I chop those up pretty fine, toss them in. I added some marinated artichoke hearts. I'm very, very generous with the marinated artichoke hearts because I love them. And because I remember when I was a kid, I loved them so much, but I deprived myself of them because I was a kid during the fat-free fad, which was such a disservice and a disgrace. But I almost never ate them because they were drenched in oil. And now I eat them because they're drenched in oil, and I love them. And you should eat them too if you like them. So I added those. And then I also got from Thrive Market and by the way, I am not an affiliate. I am not receiving anything from Thrive Market for talking about Thrive Market. But I also ordered, I think the brand is called Divina, and it is, they have olives that I've purchased before when I used to have a Whole Foods near me. But this one was like a feta olive mix. And so I added some of that to my salad. So there was olives and feta, and there was the red roasted pepper and artichoke covered quinoa, and the marinated artichokes and the scallion and a few really yummy cherry tomatoes, right, that I sliced in half really quickly. And then I took the pre-grated Parmesan cheese out of my cheese drawer. And I was raised, by the way, I mean, my mother never would have bought pre-shredded cheese in her life. But I am a food assembly person. And so I certainly buy it because it's quick and it's easy. I toss that all together, add a little bit of olive oil and vinegar to it, only because normally I would add a lot of olive oil, but I added just a little bit because the quinoa had actually a lot of oil in that sauce to begin with. So it created a dressing. You guys, it was the most delicious salad. I promise you, I put it together in under 5 minutes. And I always make a big batch. And this is one of the reasons why I like using shredded cabbage or dark leafy greens, is because they are hearty, they're sturdy. So I made the salad yesterday. And so I make a big batch. I had a portion yesterday. And when I say a portion, I simply mean I ate to the point where I was no longer hungry. I didn't measure anything. I listened to my body, and I'll be talking about that more shortly. I had a portion yesterday, and then today I had another portion of it for lunch. I had a nice, big, delicious, super nutrient-dense salad for lunch. And then after that, I had a bowl of full-fat Stonyfield. Again, I am not an affiliate with any of these. Stonyfield full-fat yogurt. I like to get plain yogurt because I don't want the added sugar. But I always get full fat because fat is our friend. And I mix in some vanilla extract to give it a bit of a vanilla flavor. And then I chopped up some strawberries and I crumbled by hand, just kind of broke up a big handful of walnuts, mixed that together and ate that. So delicious, so yummy. And all of that is an example of food assembly. I cooked nothing. Oh, I forgot to mention there was some leftover broccoli from dinner the other night. And so I put that in my salad too, which was really yummy. So you can see how you can put food together. Now, I know I'm using somewhat of an obvious example like salad, but I've also done the same thing with deli meat, right? Where I literally make these roll-ups, right? And you can see pictures of all of this on Instagram, lots and lots of ideas on my Instagram page. You can find me at Leah Pinelli. And I have a whole highlight called Simple Meals. But just the other day, I chopped up some leftover ham deli slices that needed to get used up. I sauteed up some pre-sliced mushrooms in olive oil, mixed in the ham, mixed in some really yummy cheese. And I just mixed that all up together and kind of made like a scramble in a way. It was delicious. It was fantastic. It was cooked. And it literally was put together in under 10 minutes. So that's an example. Those are a few examples of food assembly. And like I said, if you go to my Instagram at Leah Pinelli, you will see there's a highlight there called Simple Meals, and you can get lots of ideas for how to put food together. Rotisserie chicken is another one that a lot of people will buy at the store already cooked, and you can repurpose that in so many ways. So food prep is not a requirement. I do not spend time in the kitchen, and I eat really well every single day. So that's myth number one. You have better things to do than food prep. Myth number two is I have to follow a time-consuming, complicated plan that involves counting and tracking in order to lose weight. And I don't have time for that. So that is a total myth, and it's probably the one that drives me the most crazy, is that the truth of the matter is that living at your happy weight is actually simple. It is so simple. There's nothing complicated about it. There's no crazy ingredients that you need to buy that you can't even pronounce the name of. There's no counting of calories or carbs. There's no weighing. There's no measuring. There's none of that. It's simple. Now, I say it's simple, but it does require a commitment because there are some factors involved that are quite enticing, that can really, cause us to go astray of our values and our goals. So let me say what I mean by how it's simple. This is how living at your happy weight is actually achieved. There's 4 parts. One is you do want to eat mostly plants. I mean, if you think about it, biologically speaking, humans are designed to eat plants. We're also, arguably designed to eat meat as well. I'm not saying we're not. But plants, we've always been part of hunter-gatherer societies. Plants are our friends. Number 2, you want to eat plenty of healthy fats. So this, again, was a part of the fat-free fad that was funded by the sugar industry in the 1990s. This is well documented. And fat really got a bad rap. But the truth is when you combine fats and plants together, you're actually able to extract more of the nutrients out of the plants. You feel more satisfied, you feel more satiated. And by the way, your body needs fat for cellular repair, for brain functioning. Fat is our friend. And then the third thing that you need that is quite simple is protein, right? And protein comes in all forms. Oh, I forgot to mention in my salad with that quinoa, I also had some garbanzo beans. So there's protein right there, right? Quinoa has protein. Garbanzo beans has protein. Chicken, steak, tofu, shrimp, fish, like you name it. There's tons of protein sources out there, whether you're vegan, vegetarian, or a carnivore. But those are definitely the three things that you absolutely need to eat that taste delicious depending on what you like. So some people are like, oh, I don't really like veggies. But that's where I always say, look, come up with the veggies that you do like. Maybe you only like broccoli and bell peppers, right? I'm just making this up. But put some really yummy fat on that broccoli and eat it, right? And enjoy it, right? We always smother broccoli with butter in our house or cheese, something really delicious. So that's what you need: plants, protein, and healthy fats. Then the fourth piece, because I said that there's 4 pieces to how this works, living at your healthy weight, is you do have to learn how to eat only when you're hungry and stop when you're not. Now, that is simple. It is not easy. And the reason that it's not easy is because most of us were not taught how to do this from the very beginning. And by the way, we're born knowing how to do this. If you watch a baby, I did this with my own baby when he was a baby. I did not adhere to any now, of course, I had started doing this work at the time, so I was aware, but I did not adhere to any of the conventions around how he must eat. He needs to eat this, he has to eat that. I never worried about whether he was getting enough nutrients. I never worried if he was hungry or not hungry, if he was eating enough. I trusted his little body to tell him when he was hungry, which babies do. That's when they start crying. And then to also tell him when he was done, then when he was no longer hungry. I let him listen to his own hunger signals, and I never, ever permitted anyone to impose external factors on whether or not he should or should not be eating. So we are born, I'm not saying this as some kind of badge of honor, by the way. I'm saying it as an example of we are born knowing exactly when we're hungry and exactly when we're not. Our body releases hormones. One is called ghrelin, and that is the hormone that lets you know when you're hungry. And leptin is the kind of sister hormone to that, if you will. That is the hormone that's released to let you know that you've had enough. Unfortunately, in our modern world, we have done so much tampering in the form of diets or social constructs saying, oh, it's 12 o'clock, it's time to eat now, or don't eat this, or you should eat that, or make sure you eat, every 2 hours, blah, 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 blah. Don't eat fat, just eat this, try this Diet Coke. We've done so many things. We've interfered with our own biology so drastically that for many of us, our ghrelin and our leptin don't actually function as they should. For some of us, they don't even fire. I know for me, when I started this work, I had no idea when I was actually physically hungry. I was just constantly eating because of what's called diet confusion, which I've talked about in previous episodes. So the reason that this is important is because you do have to learn how to recalibrate your ghrelin and your leptin, basically bringing your metabolism back to a healthy functioning state. When our ghrelin and our leptin are not actually firing properly, that can be sometimes called metabolic dysfunction, which basically means that our metabolism has kind of gotten confused. It's not functioning as efficiently as it could and should. And we can we can fix that, right? We can go ahead and rectify that problem. And the way that you rectify that problem is beyond the scope of what I can talk about in this podcast today. But I do teach it, and you can access it right now if you go to leahpinelli.com/EWF. That's leahpinelli.com/EWF. EWF stands for Eating Without Fear, and that is my 3-part video training. The entire thing is less than 30 minutes long. You can learn in under 30 minutes how you can reset your metabolism, how you can balance your hormones and get yourself back to metabolic health in under 30 minutes by taking that one short video course. Not a lot of time, and it's so worth it, because once you learn when you're actually hungry and when you're not, and you're committed to eating plants and healthy fats and proteins, you have the basics of this formula to really, truly eat in a way that's supportive to your body, that allows your body to find its happy, natural weight with maximal pleasure and minimal effort. And you don't have to weigh anything. You don't have to count anything. You don't have to track anything. You don't have to, there's no calories here, none of it. It is so simple and easy once you really allow yourself a bit of time to practice with it and get going with it. So that's myth number 2. You do not have to follow time-consuming, complicated plans to lose weight. The other thing that I want to mention here is that besides eating plants and protein and healthy fats, and then learning to eat only when you're hungry and stop when you're not, which, by the way, that in and of itself is enough to help you find your happy weight with maximal pleasure and minimal effort. It results in weight loss. I have had clients lose up to 20 pounds just eating when she was hungry and stopping when she's not. But I also want you to understand, and I talk about this in other episodes, so I won't go into it very deeply here today, but I want you to understand that there is another factor here when it comes to hormonal balance and metabolic health. And that is the factor of processed foods and how many processed foods you're eating. So I have talked about this significantly on other episodes. And I do encourage you to go back and listen to those. And in fact, I have one coming up all about processed foods, but so that you can understand that you could be doing all the things right? You could be eating plants and healthy fats and proteins and eating only when you're hungry and stopping when you're not, but you could still be experiencing that metabolic dysfunction because you're still consuming processed foods. Now, to be fair, I eat processed foods. All of my clients eat processed foods. It doesn't mean that we never eat them. It just has to do with the frequency and quantity with which we're eating them. So, okay, that was just a little snippet I wanted to leave you with. We will get into that more in a future episode, and it's also talked about extensively on previous episodes. The last myth that I want to debunk here and now is this myth of I have to work out in order to lose weight. And I know for me, especially after I had, a family, I had a kiddo, I had a full-time career. I mean, the last thing that honestly, I wanted to work out. I wanted to exercise. I wanted to feel good. I wanted to feel strong. I didn't have time. Are you kidding me? After commuting to and from work and not seeing my baby all day, the last thing I was going to do was spend another hour away from him, or even longer. It's not an hour because you have to travel to the gym and from the gym or whatever it is, right? I wouldn't do it, because if it came between me and spending time with my family, I was going to choose my family every time. My time with them was already so limited as a professional working in leadership, working long hours at the office. So exercise was always put on the back burner, and usually the burner wasn't even lit. And the good news is that you don't actually need time to exercise, because you don't actually need to exercise at all for weight loss. Now, I know that sounds like blasphemy. I know some of you are like, what? This lady is crazy. What is she talking about? Everybody knows, eat less, move more, eat less, move more. It doesn't actually work that way. It's not true. And I've had clients, one client in particular, she lost over 70 pounds without exercising. She did eventually start taking little leisurely walks around her neighborhood, but she was not breaking a sweat. So I share that with you because exercise, especially for us who are prone to overeating, and especially those of us who are prone to overeating for emotional reasons like stress or exhaustion or excitement or fun or celebration, or all reasons why we might overeat. A lot of times when you really push yourself to persevere through a really tough workout, and for me, that might be back in the day going to Orange Theory and pounding it out, or trying to train for a 5K, even though I hated running. Those are all examples of me really pushing myself to do something that really did not feel good to me. And so what often happens is we feel like we've done this thing that was really hard, so we deserve a reward. And sometimes that reward we will get, if you're anything like me, you're really good at justifying and rationalizing, right? So you're like, oh, well, I'm going to get we're going to go out for burgers and fries, but I'll get a salad instead of the fries. But then we eat the fries off of our kids' plate or our partner's plate. And we tell ourselves that it's okay because we worked out really hard earlier. What ends up happening there is that we do that way more frequently than we realize. It's often very subconscious and habitual, but also it's not really transactional. Like if you've ever run on a treadmill, I remember the first time that I really noticed that like the 20 minutes of excruciating pain that I just experienced on the treadmill. And when I say pain, I just mean discomfort because I hate running. And all I had burned was like the tiniest chocolate chip cookie, but I had eaten like 14 of them. And I was like, oh my God, this is never going to work, right? Because it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. So what I want you to know is that, and you've probably heard this before, weight loss really is 90% about what you're eating, and then 10%, if even that, of how or if you're moving. And like I said, for many of us, it actually can have the opposite effect. It can actually cause us to retain weight and even gain weight because we're pushing ourselves beyond the threshold, moving in, releasing cortisol into your bloodstream because of the stress that you're under while you're exercising. It can literally counteract itself. So I don't recommend exercise for weight loss at all. But I also want to say here very, very clearly that if you are already exercising in a way that you love, and if you know me, you know that I love to go to Pilates. I go 3 or 4 times a week, and I love to walk my dog every single day. I love exercise, but I do not exercise for weight loss purposes. I exercise because A, I love the way it makes me feel physically. B, I love being strong, especially after 40. It's very important. And C, I do it for mental health purposes. It's a huge stress reliever for me. But if I were going to Orange Theory, it would actually be a stress inducer for me. And I don't need more stress. Working moms, we don't need more stress, right? Walking and Pilates are so beneficial to me. Those are my favorite ways of exercising. You might have your own favorite way of exercising. You might love going to the gym. You might love going to Orange Theory. To each his own. I want to recognize that, but just don't do it for weight loss. Do it for all of the other benefits: mental health, strength, cardiovascular strength, health. Do it for all of those reasons, but don't do it for weight loss because it can so easily backfire. So now that you know that you don't have to food prep, you don't have to follow some kind of complicated plan. And I even gave you the formula for the plan that you can follow, which is not complicated. Plants, protein, fat, eat only when you're hungry and stop when you're not. And you don't even have to work out. What's your excuse, girl? Let's get this going, right? Like you're ready. You are ready for this. And if you want my support, I would love to support you. I would love for you to come and check out our community. We have a community of amazingly supportive and badass women who have been exactly where you are and who are on the journey to creating the lives they crave and feeling confident and sexy in their own skin. And you can check us out by heading over to leahpinelli.com and book a chat with me. Just, we'll hop on the phone. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you're struggling with, what you're going through. I'll share with you a little bit about our community and my program, and we can see if you're a fit for this. And if not, if you want to go it alone, girl, do it. Plants, protein, fat, eat only when you're hungry, stop when you're not. I have that training at leahpinelli.com/EWF. You can go get it and you can start today. All right, y'all. Love you. Ciao.
You've been listening to The Life You Crave. I lost 30 pounds years ago without dieting, willpower, or deprivation. I'm on a mission to help other women, including you, do the same. You can book a free weight loss strategy session with me over at leahpinelli.com. That's LIAPINELLI.com. See you on our next call or on the next episode. And remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on iTunes.